It is my pleasure to introduce Diane Frank and the 10 poets who are here tonight to read from the anthology Fog and Light, San Francisco Through the Eyes of the Poets Who Live Here. I'll read you a little bit about the anthology, and then I will announce the names of the poets. A love letter to San Francisco. In this collection of poems, we show you the city that most tourists miss. Dancing the samba at Carnival in the Mission, the Golden Gate Bridge at dawn with the perfect angle of light, the timpani of Pacific waves in the outer sunset, a cappuccino before work on Minna Alley, Bird and Beckett bookstore, the dog path at Fort Funston, walking home through the Civic Center in Sunday heat, the clatter inside a flat on Nob Hill by the cable car tracks, ushering at the San Francisco Opera, an inside view of the Summer of Love, the Doggy Diner, the Sing It Yourself Messiah, 8-year-old friends in Bayview careening down their street on a board attached to a roller skate, a night game at Candlestick Park, the Alamany Farmers Market, the lively street scene at 16th and Valencia, riding the N. Judah streetcar with two cellos to play Mahler at the Herbst Theater on Beta Breakers Sunday, and so much more. Poems by Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Jack Hirschman, Alejandro Murguia, Barbara Quick, Thomas Santolella, Alison Luderman, Bo Beausoleil, Robert Scotellaro, Daniel Langton, Kathy Evans, Jane Underwood, Catherine Hare, and many other celebrated poets. #1 new release bestseller, Poetry About Places Anthologies. And I'm going to introduce Diane, who will introduce, in turn, Jody Hoddle, Gwen O'Gara, Janine Stevens, Phyllis Klein, Lucille Lang Day, Joan Gelfand, Elise Kazanjian, Susan Terrace, Ken Haas, and Diane Frank. Please welcome Diane.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you so much for inviting us here. I want to thank all of the poets who came to read, all of the poets in the book, and I also want to thank everyone who came to listen tonight. Our first poet is Jody Hoddle.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane, for putting this anthology together and all the other work that you do on behalf of poetry. And Sandy, same thing. You do so much. Okay, I'm going to read 2 of the poems in my book and then or in the anthology. And then if there's time, I want to read a poem by someone else. So I'll keep track of the time. I'm on page 110, reading the poem titled Gaman. It's impossible to pack 3 decades of married life into 2 suitcases. How do I choose what to carry into uncertainty? The notice nailed to the telephone pole ordered us to bring bedding, plates and utensils, clothing, told us cameras, radios, and our dog Rusty aren't allowed. I'll wear my Sunday dress, hat, and coat over a couple of house dresses, pack my gray sweater, nightgown, unmentionables, find room for my Bible, our wedding portrait, and tuck in dignity, patience, Gaman. I realize now I should have had at least a little bit of an introduction there. I hope you weren't totally lost, but both of the poems I'm reading of mine are about the Japanese American incarceration during World War II. And that poem was about, in the voice of someone who has been told they just have a very short amount of time to pack up to be ready to be taken from their homes. So this next one is looking back like 60 years afterwards. And there's a very common phrase in Japanese that a lot of Japanese Americans used after that experience, shikata ga nai, on page 108. Shikata ga nai means it can't be helped, which translates scour and scrub till the smell of horse urine is a faint memory. cobble a table out of scavenged fruit crates, create a home from the stall that is temporary shelter for your family of 6. Pretend you don't see barbed wire or soldiers with rifles and guard towers when you gaze at Heart Mountain on the horizon. Shikataganai, a tacit agreement to adopt the government jargon, relocation and internment, not concentration or prison camp. To be as American as possible, having to prove your loyalty, even though you were born here. And when your daughter hungers to know about your life in camp, you giggle about the hijinks girls and being prom queen, a typical teenage life. It suggests your secret mounting dread each year as December 7th approaches, even now, over 60 years later. Shikataganai means end of discussion. I don't want to talk about it. There's nothing more to say. Looks like I should stop. Thank you.
Jody, every time I hear those poems, they bring tears to my eyes. Thank you so much for writing them and for sharing them. Our next poet is Gwyn O'Gara.
Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to be here honoring San Francisco. And thank you, Sandy and Diane, again and again. My first poem is called Presidio. Haven of trees above the gate, windy, black-winged, wet. Harbored springs, clean as Shastas. And if you wandered the ravines, watercress found you too. Between beatniks and empty barracks, Julius Kahn's monkeys bars dazzled. The little Jewish girl and I dizzied down the daisy-studded slopes and draped our necks with pollen-dusted rope. Away from ballerinas and babysitters, the dark cypress grove beckoned. Beneath black branches in dens of sand, at home in the wild and make-believe, we traded seeds and secrets. Thank you, thank you. Magic from Chinatown. Daddy's treat in a plastic bag. Black gray clam, smaller than a quarter, we submerged in the kitchen sink. Hour by hour, the bivalve soaked up water, then suddenly cracked open. In another hour, a stem emerged. And over the next few hours, lengthened toward our faces. Eventually, pink and yellow petals unfurled. Every secret, stranger, lover, moon, a surprise, staggering up through watery depths toward light, prying itself open from within, blossoming. Flower face, I call you, camellia ears, rose lips. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love the way the poems come alive in your voice.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Whoop.
Our next poet is Janine Stevens. And you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Diane, for Fog and Light. My poem is on page 180, Monterey Cypress. When young, how delicate your tendrils, roots undisturbed by rodents and rot. Seedling scattered from bird's wing, you gained a foothold. Were there sister saplings and fragrant shrubs? Darkest green foliage like hairfall swayed to strange enchantments. Now alone, roped off, so no one can carve initials, deface shaggy bark. In old age, your body haggard with storm drift bends inland. Your trunk swivels, magnificent bonsai. You turn away from grand frigates and singing whales. In the scent of drying kelp, time to watch new land, time to welcome wintering monarchs. Catch a sparrow's tail, feel the pale heart beating, and then release. And my second poem is one of mine, and was published in Sharon. This is one of those poems that took 10 years to write. So it's called A Younger Man Calls Me a Seasoned Poet. As in spice and everything nice, ripe pear, exotic foods, pungent wood ready for flames. I'd like to think of seasoned as my old leotard, combination of sweat and tigress perfume, pink ballet shoes, the leather still pliable. Seasoned as in the delicate bark of myrtle, sloughing off more peach than tan each year. As in the powdery scent of first snow, mingled with exhaust from city taxis, and the new lily of the valley, dew-drenched, asserting herself in the woods near University. Or my lone canoe skimming Lake Winnebagosh, skunks rooting under our log cabin. What about zest, orange zest, mist, flesh blessed, or was zest a bath soap? Mother always said, season sparingly, a pinch, a smidgen, don't overdo. Vinegar, pickle juice, and salt. The ballet shoes, now a relic, exchanged for sturdy Rockports. The leotard for Gloria Vanderbilt's pull-on jeans. But a new spring, thoughts of turkey, figs and yogurt. Granddaughter prepares lunch, tabbouleh salad with spices brought home from Israel. A younger man called me a seasoned poet, not sure what this image did for my writing. I could take the advice of my Italian neighbor. When the sauce is too tart, just add a pinch of sugar. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, finally meeting you and seeing you
Yes,
after all
your
these years,
face,
it's
your
really
voice.
wonderful.
It's great.
And your poem about the cypress, it's what I see when I look out my rear view window, which is 3 blocks from the Pacific Ocean.
Yes, that's what you said. It's sort of a conglomeration of all the cypress on the coast.
Phyllis Klein is our next reader.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Sandy. My poem's on page 118, and it's called San Francisco During the Pandemic. In a way, I miss the walk between the rickety parking garage on Eddy Street over to my 9th floor psychotherapy office in the Flood Building. Scent of garlic, wok fried vegetables mingled with rotted food. There's the Tenderloin, a budding Union Square in 1 block from single-room occupancy hotels, small grocery markets, to Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's. In a way, I'm still there, navigating around the street people, checking out the jewelry vendors. I'm on the way to the recliner chair I searched for so it would cradle my lower back. The orchids that would have been there if I had bought them are blooming in fuchsia and white. Cable cars turn outside the window, drowned out by illegal street music, occasional protest marches, more numerous now. How many times I walked up Nob Hill, following the tourists on the famous cars, turned left at California Street
to grace, cathedral that thinks it's in Paris, closed. But now I amble quiet tree-lined streets, even redwoods in the front yards, visit the HP garage with a history plaque on Addison at Waverly. It's shut me down in a way. My car in the driveway points north like a hound on a leash. But I'm not going there. The place I fell on the corner of Eddie and Cyril Magnin, lunchbox, briefcase, nosediving like missiles around me. The sale rack downstairs at Anthropology, where I got a text message from my sister about our mothers eating less and sleeping more. The walls of my office, they're echoes of the secret gifts I listened to, the feelings painting our atmosphere in greens and blues with occasional red and black slashes. Is it still there? The world of my days as it shifts, shimmers, almost a mirage. Thank you.
Phyllis, thank you so much. One of the things I was looking for in this book was a powerful sense of place, and you just take us on that walk with you.
Thank you.
Our next poet is Lucille Langday.
Thank you, Diane and Sandy. I'm very happy to be reading here. I'm going to read 3 short poems. The first 2 are my own poems from the anthology, and I'm on page 51. This is called 710 Ashbury, 1967, and it's dedicated to photographer Jean Anthony. The photographer hangs out on Haight Street, entranced by youths and beads and braless girls in lace and feathers who weave flowers in their hair. He smokes weed with his subjects and taps his foot to the beat of Jimmy, Janice, and the Jefferson Airplane. He has told his agent not to call him. No more dogs, flags, wine labels, politicians, or corporate portraits. In his office in New York, the agent paces. He's apoplectic. So many clients waiting. His guy in San Francisco is a flake, lugging his camera bag up Ashbury, where nothing is more important than Jerry Garcia in his Uncle Sam hat and Phil Lesh with a golf club. The photographer rings the bell at 7:10, tells the dead where to stand, and the world snaps into place. And now, page 52, this is Andres Schiff, plays Bach's English Suites, and this takes place at Louise M. Davies Symphony Hall. How does it happen that a soft rain begins on an April afternoon in the Symphony Hall, filling the air with points of light that flit and flicker with the pianist's fingers? I walk in that rain without hat or umbrella, marveling that it falls from nowhere, not a cloud to be seen, a miracle of sorts. I climb a small hill, having no idea where I am, and wonder where all the wildflowers came from. Sun cups and fire poppies, mountain irises, bluebells, such a profusion of colors, and where they go when the music fades. And I will conclude with a poem by Alice Elizabeth Rogoff, and this is on page 170. It's called Cold. At a bus stop on a cold day in San Francisco in Union Square, grannies sing against war. A woman at a Mission bus stop asks where she can buy a blanket. I don't usually shop at big stores. She wants one nice but not costly. I point to Clips 5 and dime. We do what we can to keep warm. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. We have The Summer of Love from the Inside, which really had to be part of this book. And then Davies, I just love your poems. Our next poet is Joan Gelfand.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me this time, Diane, and thank you, Sandy, for having us. And nice to meet all of the Rivertown folks. This poem is on page 73, and it's called The Ferlinghetti School of Poetics. And just tiny backstory is that it came from 3 dreams that I had over the course of about a year and a half. It starts with an epigram by Edgar Allan Poe. All that we see or seeing is but a dream within a dream. The dream within the dream within the dream. What is it, Ferlinghetti? Taking star turns in my dreams, strolling in front of cars, haunting alleyways, stairways, bars, beating moth-like, flitting through San Francisco's sex-fraught avenues in North Beach, where XXX marks art and nasty commerce collide. Intersect Columbus, Telegraph Hill, Jack Kerouac Way. You are fog whispering in from the sea on another sunny day. There's a breathless hush on the freeway tonight. Beyond the ledges of concrete, restaurants fall into dreams with candlelight couples. Lost Alexandria still burns. Ferlinghetti's words sink, weighted on the business end of an invisible fishing line, dredging last night's dream to the surface, gasping for air, shivering like some catfish, eyes bulging, wet lake water dripping off its scales. The knife of memory slices open that dream, finds me on haunted streets, instructing a small boy. You gotta go to the Ferlinghetti School. It's totally rad and completely cool. 2, Ferlinghetti makes an appearance. Phantom audience shouts, higher, higher. They egg the poets on. After all, they're not on the wire. Higher, we spin the memory wheel until there's my father strolling through his own Coney Island. And there he is again, winning a goldfish. The clerk hands it over, fish circling in plastic bag. Big Daddy pretends it's all for the kids. He needed to win like that fish needed water. 3, the poet reconsiders. Is the skill of life just keeping on, all the gears oiled and the doors open, even if the past keeps drowning and the knifed open dreamfish still swims around? In Dream Theater, Ferlinghetti arrives. Was it the Regal, the Royal, or the Metreon? I rise to make room for he who started everything, got the wheel of poetry turning, broke open language, letters, vaporized while he drifts, haunting my dreams. And I think I'm just going to read that one.
Joan, thank you so much. I love the way you honor Ferlinghetti through your own vision and the way that you bring the dream images into the poem, and you just have to love that goldfish. Our next poet is Elise Kazanjian.
Thank you very much, Sandy, for giving this opportunity. And thank you so much, Diane, for this book. And I love being in it. I'm honored. My first poem is for Trudy. Trudy shuffles into the pawn shop, her head bent as if looking for something. Her wispy gray hair trails onto a ripped sleeve, her mouth a streak of red, her blue eyes hinting at a face that once turned heads. She places pocked hands on the counter, nails ringed in black like miniature obits. I turn to the computer to write her up her usual, a thin golden chain, knotted, lightweight, but heavy enough for a $10 loan. I look back at her. She's disappeared. Hands still on the counter, Her frail body is like a balloon losing air. She's compressed accordion-like against the glass counter's side. Trudy, Trudy, wake up. In slow-mo, she rises, eyes half-masked. Her right hand fumbles in her pocket. In one fast movement, out comes the matted gold chain. I put it on the scale. I know the exact weight. I type up the ticket, go around the counter. I place the $5 and the ticket in one pocket, the other 5 ones in the other pocket. I take $2 from my jacket and add it to her money. Trudy, listen, try to hold on to the money this time. Her eyes lock onto mine. She smiles sweetly at me. I pat her ripped sleeve and smile back. We both know how her day will turn out. Thank you. And my second poem is called A Sea Change. It has an epigram. It's by Holden Caulfield, Catcher in the Rye. Certain things, they should stay the way they are. You ought to be able to stick them in one of those big glass cases and just leave them alone. Arms linked, my mother and I walk up Powell Street, laughing while Joe Selle, the San Francisco street photographer, snaps our photo, like he always does when we shop downtown. My mother holds a White House department store bag, and we wear nylon stockings, white gloves, stylish hats, voguish skirt suits, fancy heels, our 1950s version of high fashion. I carry a paper bag of my resoled shoes from Frank's Shoe Repair, right next to Bernstein's Fish Grotto, its magnificent ship's prow jutting out on the sidewalk, welcoming diners for a complete meal under $8. Behind us is the Manx Hotel, built after the 1906 earthquake. We laugh hard at something Joe says while he takes our picture with a huge camera slung from his neck. Joe charges $1 for 3 photos, postage included. My mother buys so many of his photos, he greets us by name. She likes Joe, says he is a courteous gentleman who works at an honest living. We lunch just down the street from the city of Paris at Townsend's, the place Herb Caen called the Little Old Lady's Hangout, to eat cream spinach decorated with hard-boiled eggs. The Manx Hotel is now the Tony Villa Florence. Bernstein's Grotto is a Walgreens. The White House closed in the 60s. Townsend's is Guerin's Hats, and the city of Paris is Neiman Marcus. Today, I walk downtown streets full of skateboarders, scooters, bikers, Ubers, tourists carrying designer shopping bags, security guards at stores, techies scrolling nonstop, waiting for tall buses to spew them at jobs. Nobody laughs the way we did. Thank you.
Elise, thank you so much. I love the way your poems take us on a walk through time, and the deep compassion in that poem about the pawn shop just deeply moves me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Our next poet is Susan Terrace.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Sandy. Elise, I used to go with my mother-in-law to all those same places, wearing the same hat and gloves and everything. So I particularly enjoyed that. The first poem I'm going to read is by Jane Underwood. It's on page 185. Umbilical, 1983. I labored on the old yellow couch, a shade of mustard I'll never forget, and pushed until my face flushed red with the blood we shared. On the wall above my head, a painting by Modigliani, a woman who resembled me except for her eyes, which were closed as if she slept, set apart from all the bliss, the mess. It was October, the sunniest room of the house, where back door opened onto apples and belly muscles turned inside out when your head finally crowned. And you, my son, were stupendously born, umbilical cord cut, yet not, leaves churning, spinning beyond the window, light playing at the edges of spider lace curtains until it too broke through to rapture. Lovely poem by Jane. My poem is going to take you back to where Gwyn was in the Presidio. I am, although I've lived in the city for more years than I can count, I'm basically an outdoor person. I've walked every trail on Mount Tam, for instance. So when I'm really in need of being not on city cement, I go into the Presidio. The poem is page 183. It's called Abandoned Bicycle. Behind her, a tree too young to climb, a bicycle which jolts on roads she does not wish to take. Here in the Dante dark wood pocked with sun, she is freed from the spoke and the spoken. Here the soft scuff of Nike, crack of twig, scumble of blackberry is everything. No chain, no black top or bars. Here only basso of bullfrog launched from a stagnant pond. Her answer, a quixotic pause, a nod, a greedy silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan, for reading both of those poems. My criteria for putting a poem in the book was that I had to love it. Our next poet is Ken Haas.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks also, Sandy and Rivertown Poets. In honor of Buster Posey's recent retirement, I'm going to read one of my poems from the anthology called The Catch, which is on page 84. The Catch. Night game at Candlestick toward the end of its days. June Rockwell, season ticket holder of the So-So Giants, has lured me out to see the wretched Cubs. First date. When I pick her up, she asks if I've brought my glove, and I tell her I'm from the Bronx, where we do everything with our bare hands. Thin crowd, uneventful innings, until 2 out in the 7th, when Chicago's lumbering, chaw-spitting right fielder nicks a rising heater that sails backward several sections from our box seats into a circular gale, like the twister in Wizard of Oz. The ball at its apex, still no real concern 20 rows away. And yet, in its final moments, the object of common regard begins to beam intently, inevitably, for my patron's unarmed lap. I, Bud Light in one hand, fully adorned bratwurst in the other. No kidding, I refuse to panic. So the hot dog becomes at last the missing glove, explodes like a grenade as the seamed orb makes exceptional contact. When, after a decent interval, I look up, June, standing now, Jackson Pollock of ballpark cuisine, tinsels of pork rind and sauerkraut in her startled hair, glitter of mustard and relish from brow to chin, says not a word. Does not go to wash up, just lowers her quivering body. The wind dies. The home team fails. We do not speak on the drive back. Ah, what might have been, but not for me. I'm romantic in that other way, this way. For this night, No if only will ever rival what happened. Watch as we reach June's flat. She turns, caked still with the spectacle I have made of gallantry, and kisses me, softly, briefly, decisively. Watch the fog rise to claim her for the perfect past. Thanks, everyone.
Ken, that poem is just so wonderful in your voice. It takes on a whole new life out loud. Thank you for reading it tonight. So I'm the final poet from the book who's reading. My poem is on page 64, and the poem is Mahler on Race Day. Along with being a poet, I play cello in the Golden Gate Symphony. And a few years ago, our conductor decided to play Mahler's Second Symphony on Beta Breaker Sunday. He hadn't checked the calendar, and the only way to get to the Herbst Theater was to take two cellos on the N. Judah streetcar. It begins with an epigram from Gustav Mahler. I shall soar upwards to the light which no eye has penetrated. Mahler on Race Day. In concert black, we carry two cellos to the N. Judah streetcar on Beta Breaker Sunday to play Mahler's Second Symphony. We take seats in the front of the train next to a unicorn, a dragonfly, runners in rainbow tutus, and a caveman with a leopard Santa Claus hat. Eric's tuxedo, bow tie, and hot pink cummerbund. Well, everybody's in costume. We sit across from a furry gray cat and an angel with a red, white, and blue halo. To my left, a couple holding hands and wearing the medals they got when they crossed the finish line. She's dressed like a bumblebee, fuzzy antennas waving from her headband. He carries a bouquet of larger than life sunflowers. More people board the streetcar, a three-eyed alien, a troll with pink hair, human-sized mice and bunnies, a leopard with a fanny pack and a six-pack. A woman who flew in from Boston tells me that Beta Breakers is her 73rd birthday party. We invite her to the Mahler concert. She started piano lessons at age 66. No mother to tell her the piano won't fit in her house. A family of bumblebees climbs into the streetcar with black antennas and black tutus. One of them tells me the wings helped her up the Hayes Street Hill. Standing in the aisle, butterfly hats, butterfly wings, butterflies. A cello isn't out of place in this crowd. I invite a butterfly to the concert, but she prefers early music. I tell her we played Beethoven's Ninth Symphony last year. Beethoven? That's hardly early music. A bear in a fuzzy costume says that Mahler is so much better than the new music concert he heard last weekend. Sirens and pots and pans. The rainbow caterpillar agrees. Mahler has melody, chord structure, immaculate timing, and thundering beauty. Entering the streetcar, metallic space cylinder, svelte runner in orange neon shorts, and rainbow snake earrings. Beta Breakers, 7.46 miles, a marathon up and down San Francisco hills from the Bay Bridge to the Pacific Ocean. Mahler, quite a workout, 27 pages in the cello part, Allegro maestoso at the starting gate. My teacher's advice, at the downbeat, play as fast as you can, keep running. At Van Ness Station, exit the streetcar, up the stairs, down the street, cross the race at Hayes. Traffic signals help as we weave two cellos between the tutus. A few minutes before the call, we find the side door of the Herbst Theater and a friend who plays French horn for the San Francisco Ballet. Bill says, Mahler's Second Symphony at the Herbst Theater? Good for you, but is the building large enough to hold that piece? Curtain, conductor, start. It's under my fingers, and I keep intense focus as I play. Waves of beauty and mystery. The soprano soloist was one of the sent down children during the Cultural Revolution in China. She sang to keep herself sane, then emigrated across the Pacific to study opera. The mezzo, a Southern belle with honey voice and tango flowers in her hair, would do herself honors at Mardi Gras. It's a hauntingly beautiful and mystical piece, from the opening run to our standing ovation. After the applause, after we really did this thing, in the aura of post-concert afterglow, time to take cellos back to the outer sunset. On the streetcar, we sit inside a hive of bumblebees. A butterfly takes our photograph, tuxedo and concert black, holding cellos. For the next week, Mahler, a fat moon, and rainbow tutus in my dreams. Thank you very much. And I want to let you know, if you like what you heard tonight, this is a great sampling. There's a lot more wonderful poems. Fog and Light is at almost every good bookstore in the Bay Area. It's all over the city. It's at Copperfield's, it's at Book Passage, it's in the East Bay. And again, Sandy, thank you for inviting us. And to all the poets, thank you so much for your wonderful reading.